WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our preseason coaches show here on WFJA Sports. I'm your host, Austin Thomas, and tonight I'm joined by the head coach of the Southern League Cavaliers, Coach Mike Mcclure. Coach Mcclure, of course, welcome back to the booth here at WFJA. We're certainly glad to have you back for another season. So, of course, before we dive into the upcoming 2022 season, let's take a quick look back at last year. Now, 2021, bit of a rough go of things, really, starting to get the program where you want it, put in some new traditions, and really building up the culture. But after last year ended, what was the talk and the motivation, not only for your players but for your returning staff as you looked forward to this season?
Well, the biggest thing that we've done is we sat down as a staff probably 3-4 months during that break that we had, and we just talked about what could we be successful at. Knowing our kids now and knowing how they kind of operate, how they play the game, and what they're good at and what their strengths are. We just kind of evaluated what we can be good at to put them in the best position as possible. So, versus last year, some things wasn't working just because, the kids just wasn't ready to kind of handle it, or, it was just maybe a little too complicated for them. So we just kind of had to go reevaluate our coaching first before we could take the necessary steps to start talking true X's and O's with the kids.
So after last year ended, this is your third season with Southern League. Of course, your first season was the COVID season that occurred during the spring of 2021, and then you had your more traditional season last fall, although there were still plenty of restrictions in place at the time. So coming into this year, more of a regular feel to the season. So when exactly does that process of preparing for this year start once the final game is completed last season?
Yeah, so but as you said, this is the first year that we've actually been able to go through a full cycle. And when I say full cycle, I mean from winter workouts, to spring ball, and then from spring ball into a full summer, and then from a full summer to the fall season. So this is the first year that we actually been able to do that, and it shows in where we are now versus where we were last year in terms of being ready to play week one. We only got one scrimmage last year. Was able to get in two this year in preparation for the season. Guys got bigger, guys got faster and stronger weight room wise in the summertime. And just allow them to build up that confidence. They're becoming more familiar with what we're trying to do and things scheme-wise, and more so how to prepare to play football and football games. Carrying it over. Our practice schedule's pretty much been the same all summer as we carry over into the season now. So, practices move more smoothly, kind of in a timely manner, handling and covering the things that we need to cover. So I think that having that full cycle of the winter, and then the spring, and then the summer, and then the fall is helping us tremendously.
You mentioned coming into practice and kind of building up what you want this team to look like. Can you walk us through what those practices look like, especially earlier in the summer, where you're figuring out who's going to fit best where? What do those practices look like?
Well, during the summertime, it's more generic, covering more fundamental work. We used a great amount of time to cover special teams because, in high school sports, most games or some games are worn through the kicking game, and I believe in having a solid kicking game, or in a special teams unit. So we spent and focused a lot on that special teams unit, special teams guys just learning the fundamentals, putting them through drills, and then just going through generic position drills as well. But it's still, on a time script, so where that we're running around, we're moving from place to place, and there's no drag. There's not a lot of downtime. And then also, too, we was able to mix in some weight room time and some speed and agility work as well.
So coming into this year, of course, you have quite a few guys returning, but I also noticed that you have quite a few new faces out there in just a few practices that we've been able to attend, including a new quarterback coming into the season. Can you walk us through some of the new names and faces we're going to be getting used to this year?
Well, we got Robbie Sims is a kid. He transferred. Him and his family have moved in from Georgia. He played quarterback in Georgia, so he's going to be playing quarterback for us this year, which is a good addition because now that allows us to move BJ around in different areas. We had another guy, Tyrese Douglas. He comes in with us now, and he's able to add some versatility for us to the backfield and to the defensively, and then also freshman BJ Brandon Baldwin. Coming in, he surprised us in that first scrimmage that we had. I mean, just coming running hard, straight downhill runner. He comes to us from West, so we're excited to see what those guys can do for us and how they can contribute to our success this year.
Well, and I think another thing, too, that especially Mike and I are so happy to see is that Southern Lee will have a JV team again this year. So, I think that just speaks to really building the program back up to great numbers once again. We can't, of course, talk about new faces without talking about some of the old faces that we'll be seeing returning to the Cavaliers. So who has you excited after a year off of maybe getting a little bit bigger, a little bit taller? Who can you talk about?
Well, I think we got to talk about Anthony Robinson. He's returned. He's a senior guy. He was kind of our do-it-all guy last year for us, and he's still planning to use him in that same space. He's gotten even faster, this year, and he's got the big play making ability that we need. Also excited, had a very good summer, is Dylan Green. Dylan, he kind of was in a reserve role or in the shadows last year, but he's really emerged offensively, and I'm proud of him, extremely proud of him, and in his growth defensively at the free safety positions. I mean, he knows what to do. He's attacking the ball. He's breaking on the ball well. So excited to see what he can do this season as well. And then we got returning Jadarian Hamilton, who's put in tremendous work in the weight room, and he'll be at inside linebacker for us, and that just building up his confidence, and it's just exciting time of the year for us as those guys had that full cycle, as I mentioned, to get prepared and get ready as they go into their senior year.
Well, speaking of the full cycle, you've already mentioned that you were fortunate enough to have a couple of scrimmages here in the preseason. Can you talk us through what you saw in those scrimmages that you liked, that you knew you needed to come away to work on with your team, and overall what you feel like your team's strengths are going to be?
Overall, I was very pleased with us, especially on our scrimmage Wednesday night when we went up to Jordan Matthews and we played 3 teams there. I was extremely proud of the way that we came out, and we showed a sign of aggressiveness that we haven't shown in the past few years. We were physical and very aggressive, which is the part I like. Now we just have to learn how to keep that under control and play with controlled aggression. Some of the weaknesses and the parts that kind of still carrying and hindering this team is being consistent. We have times of where we play at a real high level, and then we also have times where we're very low, very flat, not a lot of energy. So it's just getting them used to change and being able to adapt to whatever that situation or environment may be. As you know, Wednesday we had rain delay, and then we were supposed to have the jamboree at our place on Friday, so and that got switched. So we had to get on the road and actually go somewhere else. So those situations happening early right now is only going to help us in the end, and as we get going in the season.
So, final week of practice, of course, before your first game on Friday night at home. Of course, that kickoff is at 7 o'clock at Southern Lee High School. What is the talk this week as you finish out your last round of practice before you see live competition that counts?
It's just kind of, like I said, just come in ready to work. Friday's for having fun. The work is put in Monday through Thursday or Monday through Wednesday if you're a JV guy. That's when the work is put in, and then you're just supposed to go out there and you have fun on those game nights. But just trying to keep them to have consistently good practice, string together good days. That's something that we had an issue with last year as well, where we come out, we have a great day of practice, and then the next day we'll come out and not so great. So just understanding how important that is to string together good days of practice before heading into the game, and just understanding the small details. And we can't afford to get a lot of penalties. We got to know where their players are at all times, and so that's just the point of emphasis right now going into this week.
Well, that sounds great, Coach. And I know we're certainly excited to get this season underway here at the end of the week. Real quick, of course, we want to thank all of our sponsors for bringing us the Coaches Show here each and every single Tuesday night. I'll be live with Coach Mike Mcclure from the Cavaliers at 7:30 right here on WFJA 105.5. Of course, we want to thank Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, Fix-It Plumbing, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, and Jones Printing Company. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a short break to hear from a few of our advertisers. And when we come back, we'll be right here with Coach Mike Mcclure to talk more Cavalier football right after these messages.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix-It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
Welcome you back to WFJA 105.5 FM, the Southern League Coaches Show. Austin Thomas here, sitting in with head coach Mike Mcclure of the Southern League Cavaliers. Coach, this is, of course, year 2 of the Sandhills Athletic Conference. Last year, I believe, was a bit of getting used to for a lot of people in the new conference maps that were drawn just in the summer prior. So a lot of new competition, a lot of new teams that we had to get used to. What was it that you learned through last year in your first full season against this new conference?
Well, the biggest thing is when you have the split conference with those 4A schools, obviously they got more depth than you. Right. So it's just a matter of being able to be in shape. It's a matter of being able to control the ball, limit their possessions, and for us is we can't put ourselves in tough situations, or we can't afford to get off to slow starts. And that's just kind of, whether that's in conference or out of conference, that's kind of been one of our problems, is the slow starts. We got to be, we're not a second half team. We got to be able to come out from the beginning and give every team our best and play fast from the beginning, instead of kind of waiting, filling teams out, and then kind of attacking from that point, which is something that I spoke to the team about. We can't wait, especially with these guys who have more numbers than us and those type of things. So you just can't afford to wait against this conference.
So how do you believe the team's strengths play into that strategy that you're trying to implement this year?
Well, I think a matter of us knowing what to do is a big part of it, and us understanding what we want to accomplish in each game. Understanding that we can't attack each team the same way. So if we understand how we plan on attacking each team and what our strengths are to play against their weaknesses, then that's going to help us prepare and be able to compete with them, throughout a full 4 quarters, instead of just maybe being competitive for the first 2 and then eventually running out of gas. And us just getting in shape as well is going to help get us to that, over the hump.
So, as you mentioned before, we are playing in a split conference, 3A, 4A, great competition all around the conference, up and down. What can Cavalier fans expect to see from our various conference opponents this season from your point of view?
Well, just similar. I believe all teams are going to be similar. With the exception of, we only have one coaching change, I believe, in the conference, and that being down at Pinecrest, coaching change. So they'll switch things up, I believe, a little bit. But for the most part, I believe most of the conference will stay the same and stay true to what they normally run and what they normally do. But we're in a majority running conference.
Right.
These teams, they like to run the ball.
Right.
From a defensive standpoint, and then from an offensive standpoint, from a defense standpoint, they want to come get you. They want to send blitz, they want to bring pressures and those type of things. So, kind of the same thing that we saw from them. Most of those schools, they have tradition. They've been around for a while.
Right.
So it's kind of goes back to how they've been playing the game, for all these years.
Well, speaking about coaches, of course, and we talked about new faces on the player side of things for the Cavaliers this year, but we've also noticed some newer faces on the coaching side of things at practices. Can you walk us through your coaching staff for this season?
Yeah, I was able to. I think we added four new guys to the staff. That give us a total of 7. Obviously, we got Chris McClure coming back for us this year. He's going to be our JV head coach because we will have a JV team this year. And defensive back coach, we got Gilbert Jones, which was he's coming from us from Sand. He was a coach over at Sand, so he's coming to coach our running backs and also help on JV. We have Jonathan Ingram, who's coaching with us as well. He's working with the D-line. Him and Coach Holder. Coach Holder is actually working in the building with us as well, and he was able to come on staff. And we have Coach Blanks, who's our quarterback coach. Coach Sam Spencer, who's offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. So, we're able to fill out, more numbers than last year, coaching wise, which is always a good thing. The more eyes that you have, then the better off you have, and then the better coached up the kids can be.
Well, this is season 3, really, of your tenure at Southern Lee. So you're building the numbers up in terms of participation. You're building the coaching staff up. And one thing that Mike and I have especially noticed in your time so far with the Cavaliers is this focus on building a culture, not only with the players but with the fans. What is a way that you're going to continue building on that this season for everybody involved with the program?
We're just trying to bring excitement to the program. That's what I think it needs more to get more people involved and create that more Friday night football, high school atmosphere. That's what, when you think of high school football, you think of the fans and the student section, the tailgating aspect of it and everything. And that's just what we want to get, back at Southern, to get everybody excited about supporting Cavalier football. And I think with the JV coming along and having a JV team and that should begin to turn things around for us and get more people excited about being a part of what we have going on. But in terms of culture for the kids, it's just a matter of them paying attention to the details and focus. That's what we really emphasizing on in the coaches meeting. I emphasize that, to stress the details, important to the details, because what we're trying to accomplish, the details matter. So we can't afford to jump off sides. We can't afford to have penalties that are self-inflicting. We can't afford to go that way.
Well, of course, it's all going to start coming together this Friday night. The Cavaliers will be at home against Westover again. Kickoff for that game is at 7 o'clock this Friday evening, so head on out to Cavaliers Stadium and be sure to join us. And again, talking about building that culture and getting fans to come out, we want you to come spend your Friday evening with us. But your opponent this Friday night to get the season kicked off is the same exact opponent that you started last year against, except it was on the road, and that is Westover. A game that the first half was fairly close, and the Cavaliers looked really good, but as you mentioned, kind of a problem that hurt the Cavaliers last year was running out of gas later on in the second half. What are your thoughts going into this Friday, and what do you feel like is going to be the difference maker against last year's result?
Well, I think coming into this Friday, we got to eliminate the big plays. They got very talented quarterback, coming in and controlling their offense for them, and we can't allow him to get going. We can't allow him to get hot. Defensively, they were very aggressive. They love to bring the blitz, and so we definitely got to be able to pick that up and be prepared for that, because that was one of our weakest points last year. And then it goes back to being in shape. Being in shape, they kind of pounded us. Once they realized that they could pound us, we started giving out of gas, and then they just begin to pound us. But the biggest thing is going to be to eliminate the big plays, explosive plays that they have offensively. This is a team that went deep in the playoffs last year, so
I believe they only lost 2 games last year.
They're going to be looking. They're going to be looking to pick back up where they left off last year. Obviously, they'll have new faces, but ultimately, I believe their goal isn't going to change. They're going to, they're feeling confident coming in because of what they were able to accomplish last year. So, we have to be able to come out on a fast start, as I mentioned, playing fast and understanding and paying attention to the details and just being disciplined.
I know you don't want to necessarily make predictions on how guys are going to play, but who do you expect could really be the difference makers for you this year, or is it more of just a collective team effort?
This is more of a collective team effort, and I say that because backs can't make plays without the offensive line, and so really up front is the guys that we're counting on to be the difference makers. If I'm honest, the guys at the offensive line and defensive line, both ways. Those are the guys that's where the ball game's won. We've got athletes that when we get them in space, they know what to do with the ball. But ultimately, we got to be able to create some space for them to get through and for them to have time to do what they need to do. But ultimately, I think what we have up front, them being just kind of thrown in the fire my first year, those guys are now juniors now. So, they kind of know what to expect. They know what they're going up against, and looking for them to have the biggest growth this year and make the difference for the team.
I guess if you can, maybe pull back the curtain a little bit. What does the pregame tradition look like for your guys? What are you doing? A couple of hours before kickoff, how are you getting prepared? What does that look like for you as a head coach and for your players?
Yeah, well, we go through our special teams to make sure everybody understands what special teams they're on, because we don't want to be looking for guys when the times come to punt or kick off and those things. And then we also go through a simulation if somebody was to get hurt. We have them sit down. We have the next guy stand up, and then from there we just kind of head into a pregame meal, and then followed by devotion. We'll have devotion, and then from once we leave out of devotion, we just kind of have some downtime, depending on if we gotta go on the road or not. Just downtime that we let the kids just kind of get their mind right, run through plays in that type of situation, and before we get ready to head down to the field and start warming up. And meantime, as a coach, I'm just getting ready, making sure that I'm prepared, making sure that, I'm ready to call plays and just kind of walking myself to keep my composure on the sideline, so that everybody doesn't, go crazy. So that's just the biggest thing. That's kind of what our routines is looking like on Friday. Now it'll be different now. Not being in school, it makes a difference not being in school, but so you just gotta get them a little bit better prepared, but that's it. That's ultimately it, though, on Friday.
Well, Coach, that sounds great, and I know we're all excited. Football season finally here, after a long off season. A couple of quick tips for everybody planning to come to the game this Friday night. Be sure to go ahead and buy your tickets ahead of time at gofan.com. Very easy to use. Coach, I want to thank you again for coming to join us here tonight as we get ready for Friday night's game. Mike and I can't wait to finally be back at the stadium. Best of luck against Westover, and we look forward to talking to you, of course, after the game, as always. We thank all of you for joining us for the Coach Mike Mcclure show tonight and our crew here at WWGP Sports. I want to wish the Cavaliers the absolute best in the upcoming season. As always, we want to thank our sponsors, Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix-It Plumbing, and Jones Printing Company for bringing you our Coaches Show tonight and each and every single week. We thank you for listening to WFJA and WWGP Sports. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back for one final segment.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix-It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And we welcome you back to our final close here on tonight's preseason coaches shows. We want to thank Lee County head coach Steve Bordeaux and Southern Lee head coach Mike Mcclure for their time tonight. And we also want to thank our sponsors, Jones Printing Company, Wilkinson Cadillac Chevrolet Buick and GMC, Domino's, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, and Fix-It Plumbing for bringing you our coaches shows for the 2022 season. Of course, we want to remind you that all season long you can visit the WFJA website and view these Coaches Shows videos, and also make sure to check all of our football pages, which include standings, schedules, results, rankings, game articles, player stats, and much, much more. We also remind you that our game articles and stats are posted by midnight each and every single Friday night after the game, so keep that WFJA website icon handy on your phone. Well, for our director, Laura Vest, I'm Austin Thomas, and again, we thank you for listening to WFJA Sports. Good night, everyone.